Run there by Sergeant Arnold and Corporal Ascot. As I said, my riders are going to do a quick little lap before each of my riders split off on their own separate ways, and then they come on to some very quick and close crossovers. So a bit of a nod from the front two riders, lets them know to separate. Now using these cones around the outside of the arena, my riders will be looking over their shoulders at all times to make sure his partner is exactly where he should be before they hit that white marker, and they accelerate on, trying to get as close to the backside as they can. Now it is very dusty, it is very dry out here, which does make things a bit slippery, but they come round for another pass. Now I think they've got a good feel for it now. We're going to make that angle a little bit tighter. These cuts a little bit quicker this time as they come halfway in between the markers. Thankfully everybody's still standing now as my riders and form a move back in. How about we have a big round of applause there for my opening riders. Looks like one of my riders didn't quite make it in, so maybe it was a bit of a premature clap, but these are classic motorcycles, and sometimes they don't quite want to play with us. But marching out fast in the far corner, we have Corporal Paul Day and Corporal Mackie performing our very first trick known as the double jimmy. Now the jimmy is based on Mercury, the messenger god, and is the thing that we all wear on our uniforms to mark us out as communications, so we're all royal signals. Now this clearly takes a huge amount of balance and strength for Corporal Mackie, because both of those riders, all of their weight is going straight through his left leg, so it takes a huge amount of strength for him to be able to stay up like that. Out next we have one of our first year tricks, being ridden actually by one of our second year riders this time. It's Sid Grieve riding the trick known as the Angel. Sid Grieve sets the speed on the motorcycle, and then he just uses his balance to steer it around. Now he makes it look very, very easy. However, these tricks are not as easy as they look, and it takes a huge amount of balance, skill and training to get to this level. Out next we have Sig Timmings, one of our first year riders, just joined the team a few months ago. Along with Sergeant Wynne, they are performing the trick known as the Swallow. Now this bike, it has two plates on the side of it, and that's what Sig Timmings is using to steer it around. Very much like a skier, he's using his body weight. And now if you look into the centre of the arena, you'll see two of my most courageous, or most stupid, white helmets lying underneath our human jump boards. Under the watchfire there of Lance Corporal Dame Ryan, he makes sure they're in exact position, ready to receive the 200 to 300 kilograms of man and machine going straight through the elbows of our intrepid board holders. So here they come. A quick little thumbs up there just to make sure the board holders are okay and ready to receive another round of bikes. Now ladies and gentlemen, just as we rearrange these for one further jump, I'm just going to let you know about the Black Peak. Now the Black Peak is the thing that the rider who last dropped one of our classics and vintage motorcycles and allowed those handlebars to touch the floor in a public environment has to wear, and it is the mark of shame. Now anybody who saw the show earlier on, you may notice that that rider has changed, because one of my riders was trying to start a bike earlier on and dropped it right in the centre of the arena, so a bit of an embarrassing moment for him, and as such he has to wear the Black Peak. Now as they come down for one final jump, ladies and gentlemen, how about we have a huge round of applause there for my jumpers? And more importantly, for being brave enough to get under them and lying in this dirty, dirty ground. How about we have a big round of applause for my board holders as well? You can see it right now. The current holder, Sid Grieve, he's on the hanging ladder along with Corporal Clark. Now our bikes come in two different types. You have a normal motorcycle that has the gearing, throttles and suspension of a normal motorcycle. And then you have our trick bikes. Now these have no suspension, extra brackets, and they have sticky throttles that allow our riders to be able to remove their hands and do what you can see being perfectly demonstrated here by Corporal Clark. Next up in the arena is the trick known as the 4Ts. Clearly it gets its name from the 4Ts on the position. This has actually been ridden by the second man in, Sig Timmings. He's the one who's responsible for setting the speed, and he's got his foot on the brake. But clearly they have to work together in perfect harmony to make sure they keep that balance together. And next up, it's time for our resident gymnast, Lance Corporal Peaver, to perform the trick known as the pillion headstand. Now, for anybody who has ever tried to do a headstand before, I'm sure you can appreciate quite how difficult this is, let alone trying to do a headstand on a moving motorcycle with no suspension. So as they come past, ladies and gentlemen, let's give them a bit of a round of applause there. And now coming out of the pits, we have one of our smaller shared bike tricks known as the 2-bike fan. Now anybody who's ever attended our selection course has had to attempt this trick. And it's important to note at this point that there are absolutely lots of straps holding it together. And it's purely being done with the strength and the teamwork of my riders. Clearly they're working together, showing good teamwork, good strength, just to make sure that Lance Corporal Ray on the top there doesn't get dropped. Thankfully today, he seems to have survived another round. And now some of our tricks, they name themselves. Some of them are very obvious what they are. We looked at this next trick and we decided we'd call it the throne. And of course, what does every self-respecting man do when he's on the throne? But he gets a magazine out and he gives it a read. This time round we got Corporal Danny Goodwin riding the trick. Now we think it's far too easy to use your hands, so he's using his feet to steer it along. But clearly once he's got that speed set, he has to go. Now he almost took the ladder out on the way round there, the ramp even. And now it's the part of the show that my insurance company hates. Because we're going to put my nice, shiny white helmets car underneath two of my bravest, most courageous jumpers. Now those with good eyes might notice that there are quite a lot of dents on the top of my car. So this doesn't always go according to plan. So my first jumper today is Sig Grieve, our current Black Peak holder, and he sets off. He's going to get to 4th gear, stand up and hopefully clear the car. And a lovely clean jump. Now Sig Grieve here is trying to build up to the bigger jumps, but our next one here is going to show him how it should be done. Because again, I'm going to put 4 of my most disposable white helmets underneath just to make things more difficult. So we got Lance Corporal Angel's going to come up for the jump, and as he does, again he's going to set off, get into 4th gear, get as fast as he possibly can to clear the jump. Now ladies and gentlemen, as he sets off, let's give him a bit of encouragement, a bit of a round of applause to make sure that my car remains another day. And once again, we've got a lovely clean jump by Corporal Angel there. Now ladies and gentlemen, the next rider you will see is one of our frequent holders of the Black Peak, because the trick he's about to perform is a very difficult one. Known as the reverse ladder, we have Lance Corporal Peaver riding this trick. He's going to set the speed on the bike, get himself comfortable, and once he gets that balance, he climbs up the ladder. Now clearly this is more difficult for the fact that he can't see where he's going. He has no hands on those controls, so as he comes past, give him a wave, give him a clap, as he sets himself up nice and straight-ish and takes over the bike, and hopefully stops before he crashes into the rest of the bikes. Ladies and gentlemen, for the control he just displayed, I think he deserves a huge round of applause there. I do say this is a live show. Sometimes things can go wrong. Seems like it's going wrong, very, very, very wrong at this moment in time. However, like true professionals, Corporal Mackie here takes control of the trick known as the Cossacks. And as you can tell from the beaming smiles of the two Cossacks, they love hanging off the side of the motorcycle and having the trust in their rider. Now we've had 2 bikes cross over, we've had 3 bikes cross over. This time we're going to make it a little bit more complicated by adding a 3rd bike into the mix. Known as the Irish Whip, we now have 3 riders at a time crossing the centre of the arena. They line themselves up, they accelerate on. Again, trying to get as close as they can on those cuts. Now this really is important where timing, precision, acceleration and braking all come into it. And for the fact it's so dusty and so dry out there, it does make things a little bit more difficult for my riders to see their partners, and clearly lots of practice goes into this. Now, ladies and gentlemen, that is part of the display. My riders, I would normally look over in. How about we have a huge round of applause there for my Irish whip riders? Whilst I try and settle my beating heart now. Now, the next trick coming out of the arena has been quite interesting over the last couple of days. Been ridden here by Sig Hutchinson. Now, just to make things more difficult, he can't actually see where he's going at the moment, so he's having to rely on the communications of the guys above him to make sure he's going in a straight line. And to make sure he doesn't run Sergeant Arnold over as he comes through. Sergeant Arnold in the middle there, he's not just throwing grass in the air for the fun of it, he's actually preparing for our next thing, our famous fire jump. Now, our fire jump is a rite of passage for any white helmet. Every single one of us has had to jump through the fire in a live display in order to wear that coveted and iconic white helmet. Big uniforms. However, you are going to feel a bit of heat and you are going to see a bit of smoke. But I can guarantee it's not going to be quite as hot and smoky for you guys as it is going to be for my 5 jumpers today. So my first jumper going through, Sig Timmings, he's one of our first year riders. Only joined us just a few months ago. Only went through the fire for the very first time just up in Blandford Camp at the beginning of this year. And that's when he earned the right to wear his helmet. Now, you'll notice a lot of them are playing with their helmets, knocking them forwards. This is just to protect their pretty features, make sure they've still got eyebrows at the end of the day. And here comes the fire. So once that has built up to the highest point, Sergeant Arnold will give the command for the first man, Sig Timmins, to come through. He'll set off, he'll go into second gear, he'll stand up, lock his legs, duck his head. It makes it sound so easy as he comes on through for the first jump. Next up we have Lance Corporal Angel. Lance Corporal Wilson's the next one to come and face the fire. Corporal Clark. And then finally, one of our more experienced riders, Corporal Mackey, should show him how it's all should be done. Ladies and gentlemen, how about we have a huge round of applause there for my brave and courageous fire jumpers. And now is that fun part of the display where I have to pad for a few minutes when we try our next trick comes out. So this trick here is known as the ladder headstand. Clearly it's because a man is doing a headstand on a ladder. Now this has failed 3 out of 4 times since we've been here. So ladies and gentlemen, let's give a bit of a round of applause. He has made it further than he has made it in the last couple of days. For Lance Corporal Ray in control, and for our previously headstander. Now we've had 2 bikes crossover, we've had 3 bikes crossover. This time my riders are going to do those crossovers, but they're going to do them in reverse. So once again they use these cones around the outside, they hit their markers, and they accelerate on, trying to get as close as they can as they come through to the fire. Now it is a bit smoky, which is making things a little bit more interesting, but you'll notice as my riders come through, they'll give a quick little nod to their partner to make sure they're okay, their bikes are okay, more importantly their brakes are okay, as they come round for the next pass. Now some of these bikes are getting but not too close as they come on through. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I've mentioned a couple of times we are still serving soldiers. We are all British Army soldiers, and as such, we like straight lines. So my riders are going to show their control over these motorcycles. I would say by doing a perfectly straight line, however, it's somewhat of a squiffy line at the moment. But as my riders come down the field, how about we have a huge round of applause there for my reverse riders. And of course, what else do you do when you're hanging upside down between 2 bikes? Well, you get a magazine out, you give it a bit of a read. He might even give you you a wave as he comes past, so as he waves to you, please give him a wave and a bit of a clap past. Now, whilst he doesn't look it, Perry is not a big man, but when he's hanging upside down like that, he is an incredibly heavy man. So, ladies and gentlemen, how about we give our riders there a huge round of applause? Now, the next trick moving into the arena, you might kind of recognise this position. I'm going to say from sports days or something. But this trick is known as the wheelbarrow. It's been ridden on there by Corporal Hitchmo. He's the man on the front. He's the one who controls the speed and the braking. And then we have Corporal Angel, who is working very hard. As I mentioned, there's no suspension. You can see there is no suspension, so he's working incredibly hard to keep that position. Now, my riders, not only are they trained to be riders, but they're also trained in their normal Royal Signals jobs, so communicators, engineers, operators. And they're also taught to fix and maintain these motorcycles. Now, some of them do have natural talent, and usually the next trick is reserved for somebody who is silly enough to admit that they can juggle. So next up we have Sig Timmings performing along with Corporal Fraser the trick known as the court jester. Now, Sig Timmings has managed to keep hold of his juggling balls for a little while. He hasn't dropped any for a couple of shows. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's add a bit of pressure, shall we? Let's give him a big round of applause as he comes down that final straight, just to make things a bit more difficult as he comes down fast. Now, having been up there myself, I can tell you it is a very nerve-wracking place to be, because nobody wants to be that guy that drops his juggling balls. Now, we've had 2 bikes cross over, we've had 3 bikes cross over. We have the guys doing it in reverse, for those who can count and can see. We have 4 bikes crossing over this time. Usually one that gets people a little bit twitchy as they come on through. My riders look over their shoulder, they spot their partners, they accelerate on those markers. Again, trying to get as close as they can as they come on through. Now, these are all second, third year riders. To learn these rides, they walk them over and over and over again before they build up to the speed you'll see today. Now, if you can see through all the dust, you can see my riders squinting and rubbing their faces. But thankfully, everybody has made it through today. So as my riders once again form up and move back in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, how about we have a huge round of applause there for my Charlie's Diamond riders. Now, I mentioned some of the tricks that the guys learn on selection, and this is one of those very tricks, known as the Eagle. It's 1 man, 1 bike, which is usually a first year trick. This time, about first year riders, Corporal Dave. And again, he sets the speed, and just using his body weight, he steers it around. And just like the Angel, he's making it look very easy. But again, having thrown myself on the floor a number of times attempting this trick, some people are built for very different things. Now, the next trick needs a bit of encouragement, because the next trick involves a huge amount of balance. Because Lance Corporal Ray here is going to stand up on the big strong shoulders of Corporal Danny Goodwin, and just using balance and not ripping Danny's head off, he's going to stand up. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is difficult. Let's give him some encouragement. Let's give him a round of applause just to make sure he pulls up, runs up, and gets back on. There we go, he should go up again. Let's give him a big clap here. Let's get him back up there, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? And a big cheer for him standing up. Now, the next trick, one of the biggest ones we're going to do for you today, 10 men, 1 bike, known as the tableau. Now, this shows just how flexible my riders are, but also how hard my bikes have to work. And also how our Davida helmets, they come into their own, because the men on the bottom, if they're not headbutting the tyre, they're headbutting the floor. So, ladies and gentlemen, again, let's have a huge round of applause there for the tableau as they sit back up. So clearly, to be a white helmet, you need to be able to ride a bike. Not just forwards, not just backwards, but also to be able to multitask as being perfectly Demonstrated here by Sergeant Arnold, my second in command for the team. Now, as with Sig Timmings, he hasn't dropped a juggling ball for a while, so let's give him some pressure, ladies and gentlemen. You can see the concentration on his face. Let's give him a big clap as he's coming down this final straight, just to make sure he keeps hold of the ball as he's coming through. And it looks like he's made another day. Now this next trick is a deceptively difficult trick. At this point you're probably thinking reverse riding's easy. However, because the weight is so high up, we have to have one of our more experienced riders, Corporal Ascot here, riding this trick, known as the Maltese Cross. As I said, the weight is so high up, it takes a huge amount of skill and strength for him to maintain these positions. Now, as I mentioned a couple of times now, we're on classic Triumph T140 motorcycles. These are all custom built for the team by members of the team. And as we do all our training on them, they take a huge amount of maintenance and requirement. They require a huge amount of maintenance. Next up in the field, you will see the trick known as the reverse 40s. Very similar to the forward 40s, however, as the name suggests, they are going backwards. The difference with this one is we have Corporal Mackie, he's the one sat on the front, he's the one in control. And on the back there we have the beaming smile of Lance Corporal Angel, even happier because he got rid of the black peak just a couple of hours ago. But he has got a big trick coming up later, ladies and gentlemen, so we'll see if he manages to keep his white peak. Now the next trick in the arena is going out quite fast. It's one of our double small man tricks known as the double angel. This shows the communication skills between the guys because one of them's in control of the throttle and then the other one has to clutch the brake. And again they have to work in perfect harmony to get it round. Now I mentioned Lance Corporal Angel and how happy he was to get rid of his peak. He got it earlier on today for this very trick. Now this is so difficult, not only is he up but he is facing forwards, but to make it more difficult to come down, the theory goes, he straightens himself up, he has to climb up the ladder, down the other side and take control. So as he does, ladies and gentlemen, let's give him a huge round of applause if he takes control of that bike. Again, he makes it look so easy, but this is something that many riders have tried and many riders have failed. Next coming out is the biggest trick we're going to do for you today. The 5-bike fan. This is used a huge number of my riders. So one of them has to do something on this trick. If one of them fails, then the thing comes down. So ladies and gentlemen, as they come past, give them a wave, give them a clap, show some appreciation for the hard work my riders are putting in as they come on around there. And now for the final trick, before we move into our closing ride, we have the book reading. Now we keep this trick in just to show that we're not all about bikes, but we are thinking people as well. But I will let you to clear this, it's mostly pictures, not many words, which makes life a little easier for Corporal Clark. But because there's no weight on this motorcycle, he's having to use his superior his superior strength to steer this motorcycle around. He told me off last time I said that. So ladies and gentlemen, how about we have a bit of a round of applause for Corporal Clark there. And now that brings us into our closing ride. My riders are going to crisscross up and down the arena again as they can before they start some very fast and daring head-to-heads down the arena. So the two sticks of riders are going to form up. They're going to move down the arena. You'll hear a quick rev of the engine to let them know when to turn. And then the two lead riders go on their own way. Now once again, they're always going to be looking over their shoulder at all times to make sure his rider is still riding and isn't on the floor. And once they hit the centre, they'll accelerate down, trying to get as much as they can out of these engines before turning off at the very last second. Now ladies and gentlemen, I see lots of you are taking photographs. My riders are very vain. We are on Facebook, we are on Twitter. Please send them over to us because they love to have pictures of themselves. And ladies and gentlemen, if you'd like to come over and speak to any member of the team, whether it's about the Royal Signals, whether about the Army, or by the White Helmets, or just to have a look at our bikes, please come over to us. We are by our very special White Helmet fan. But we love to see you, we love to have a chat with you. Now that does almost bring a draw to the end of the show, but my riders are going to show a little bit of appreciation to you guys for being such a fantastic audience. Sergeant Arnold's going to stand up and do a traditional military salute, and then my White Helmets are going to do their very own version. And as they do, ladies and gentlemen, as they rev those engines, let's give a huge round of applause for the Royal Signals Motorcycle Display Team, White Helmets. Now it looks like one of the bikes almost made its way through the show. However, Sergeant Arnold still he's having a few issues starting his bike. That's Sergeant Arnold, the one pushing it away there, if anybody is wondering. Now, as a little treat, before we do finally finish the show, we are going to attempt some wheelies. Now, I always say the word attempt because this is very hit and miss. My riders have a free wheelie license. They crash 3 bikes, they lose their license. So we have 3 today attempting it. We have Corporal Mackie and Lance Corporal Angel going to give it a go. Now as they do, ladies and gentlemen, they'll accelerate off, they'll pull on those front wheels and they'll give it a go. As they do, let's give them a huge round of applause. Bit of encouragement to get that front wheel up. And finally, our Chief Mechanic, Corporal Cooper, doing a seated wheelie. Ladies and gentlemen, please stick around now. Some fantastic acts coming onto the stage, into the arena at the moment. I hope you have a great day. My name has been Captain McClelland, and we have been the Royal Signals White Helmets.